together to worship you and to learn more about enjoyment of life through you. And please be with me as I try to demonstrate some great things that you've done in our home. Please send the angels to watch over and protect us, and to think about those that are not here with us, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to come before you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so this chickpea pizza crust has been a great thing for us in replacement of some more unhealthy things. And it's pretty simple, so I volunteered to demonstrate it today. So for this recipe, I just use chickpea flour, which I'll make my own from just a bag of chickpeas that you can find at most local store. Water, they're at your home, hopefully. And we've got just onion, garden onion or from the store, garlic, salt. I prefer sea salt, but whatever salt you prefer is your choice. Oil.
You have that much salt that's in that container?
I am not going to use this much salt.
Okay.
I brought the bag of salt because I do prefer the sea salt, but I'm kind of clumsy, so this is for safety.
Okay.
Oil. With the oil, what I've found as I've been changing my health is that there's some oils that are good for our health because healthy fats are good for us. I don't know if these are good for us, but so far they're better than any others that I have been using. And so I have avocado oil here, and I have grapeseed oil here, and I get both of these at Aldi's, and so that makes it really convenient for me. I'm only going to probably use one of these today, but I wanted to bring these to share with you guys on that. So to do this, it gets a little bit noisy, so we may want to pause the camera or not, but what I do is I just open these chickpeas up and I put them in my strainer, and I'll run over to the kitchen sink and just give them a quick rinse. Probably a longer rinse would be more healthy. The fun part at home for me is cooking, but the family enjoying the food and me getting to enjoy the food is also great fun. So after I've got my chickpeas in my food processor, I am going to add a little bit of water so that way that they're not quite as noisy. The recipe says don't add too much water at a time, because if I do that, then water's going to fling everywhere and they'll try to clump. At home, or you don't want to go through this step. I do this because I enjoy processing my food at home, but apparently you can buy besan flour, and that's supposed to be the same thing. The more water I get in here, the less loud it'll be.
What kind of flour was that?
Besan, it's on the recipe there.
Okay.
I think I'm not familiar with it. So
You probably have to find it at like,
A health food store.
yeah,
yeah.
what's that place in Columbia called? I can't think.
Natural
the
foods.
Natural foods.
Natural.
I wonder if you could
Nat-
start. I wonder if you
natural
could start
things.
down here at
Clover.
Coke's. They've
Or
got a
maybe-
whole variety of a bunch
Yeah,
of stuff.
Coke's might, and also another place that I found is really good is Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
Hy-Vee might have it too.
Start putting in some of the other ingredients because we're actually almost done here. So that bag of chickpeas that I put in there, the recipe calls for 3 cups. That bag is approximately 3 cups. And so I had measured out 3 cups of water. It's similar to a 50-50 ratio, but each time I find it to be just a little different, so I go with the consistency. So I'll show you that in just a minute. So with the recipe, it calls for onion. I just take a fresh onion and halve it. And last time I made this, I used about 1/4 of a half. and that was really good. For the garlic,
So the fresh onion is equal to the onion powder, right?
yes.
Okay.
And after it was halved, about a quarter of that is where
Okay.
we'll start today.
All right.
One, I guess this is a large clove, 1 large clove of garlic. You ladies probably already know these things. Press them down on the counter. For the garlic, since I just recently started using garlic, I love that little tip. So I just cut off the end, add it to the food processor. The recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, so that's how much I'll be using.
Says, oh yeah, teaspoon.
Uh-huh. And then back to turning on the food processor. Okay, I could have went ahead and put in the oil. At home I use bran oil. That's what the original recipe called for. Bran oil is something that I had to order online, but it may be in the stores and I just hadn't seen it there. I bought a large jug of it. It was kind of inconvenient to bring it up here, and as far as I know, both of these are safe for cooking. So I'm just going to use one in here, and the recipe calls for a tablespoon. Honestly, I picked grapeseed oil because sometimes I have to be careful with my allergies and avocado. But today that's not a problem. So we'll just let this continue to mix. As you can see, it's starting to get in a pretty thick consistency, but it's definitely not.
You want to hold that there again, Justine?
It's definitely not the bean-shaped piece that we were looking at when we first started. So it's almost done. Looking for a pourable consistency. And so I'll go ahead and get the pans ready. I'm just going to put a little oil on the baking sheets. I think the recipe says a 12 by 16 baking sheet. I'm not sure what size these baking sheets are, but this is about the right size for using this entire bag of garbanzo beans. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to spread the oil out over the pan. These pans have had the use put to them, and so sometimes the pizza tries to stick just a little bit due to the misuse of the pans. We want to try our pizza. We don't want it all stuck to the pan. So hopefully that. Now, many of you have probably noticed I appear a little nervous. I'd like to just share that for up until the last year, for probably 15 years or so, and that's a good majority of my life, we spent several meals a day eating out, and so I'm not real familiar with the kitchen. It's just something that God has brought me back to, and so I am thankful to be learning right along with. I ran off because I want to add some more water to this. I've used my 3 cups and the consistency is really nice, but it's just not quite thin enough for pouring it for these pizzas. And this is just filtered water that we did at home. Put it in here just to make it a little easier to pour in the machine. Starting to come out the side, so I think it's pourable. So as I've tried to testify, God does provide for us everything that we need. I wanted to share with you that I got this machine at our online shopping, but it was a local store, and I paid $40 for it.
Now, can we see the consistency?
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna run it up close.
I don't want to pour it on the counter,
Okay.
but I am
Alright.
going to pour it into the pan, so maybe we can catch that. Or I can, here,
Yeah,
I'll move the
that,
pan
I
over
was
here.
gonna say.
A little easier.
Looks like pancake batter.
It does, and that's what I compare it to as far as the consistency. If there's supposed to be a recipe to this, I don't know it. So I just pour about half in each pan. And then I take the pan and I just spread it out. The extra oil doesn't help the spreading process a whole lot. But if I can get it mostly spread out, it'll cook. So that's kind of what we want it to look like.
Very nice.
So I'm going to put these in the oven that should be preheated at 350 degrees. It's going to be about, is it 350 or 400?
It's 400.
400 degrees for about 15 minutes. So it doesn't take very long. Those of you here that are going to try this, as I was putting it in the oven, I saw that I could have blended it a little longer. So if the pizza isn't quite to taste, that's the great thing, is that I'm not trying to feed you dinner, and we can definitely alter that. So I think it'll still taste good, but we might notice a little bit of chunks in our pizza that didn't need to be there. So while we are waiting for the pizza, the recipe suggests, and I often do this at home, is that I would saute some onion. I'm really trying to move away from cooking with hot oil, and so I thought for today that I would just use fresh onion instead. And so I'm going to clean up my area, and then I will be just cutting some.
Do you cook it afterwards, after you put the vegetables on?
No, the pizza crust is cooking now. And so actually you reminded me, I want to warm up the sauce while we're doing that so that the sauce will be warm. And then I use the raw vegetables. The onion, like I had shared before, I sometimes do cook that at home, and so it's soft and gets it a little sweeter as well. You can really pick and choose the toppings, the vegetables that you want to use on your pizza. At home, I often will take the pinto beans that I cook in the crock pot and use their flavor and some things like oil and garlic, onion, and some herbs out of the garden to make like a refried bean. And so then I will spread that on the pizza instead of the tomato sauce and pile it with lettuce and tomato, onion, things that we would use to make a similar taco pizza. And so then even in that we go forward with making our own cheeses and things that we can put on the pizza out of nuts or even actually vegetables, and they're pretty good. But something just simple and quick at home that we find is a cheese visual substitute is I like to take shredded yellow squash and put that on the pizza, and it's also very tasty. So the sauces, usually at home I just use the marinara sauce. Aldi started carrying these recently, and I'm really glad that they're doing that because after quite a long time of not eating anything out of a can or a jar, it's been a great fun to me to find some things in the store that I can just pop a lid on and feel like I'm still putting wholesome food on the table. So I also brought their tomato and basil pasta sauce. This one has the herbs added into it, and it's organic. And the thing with it is that it might just give it a little bit of flavor, whereas sometimes at home I just put those things directly into my food processor whenever I'm making the pizza.
Turn
So
that one around.
I hear the pizza calling now. I'll go check on it.
Hungry.
Okay, so the pizza is effectively done. I just shut the oven off and I'm gonna let it sit in there just a couple more minutes. I can tell that it's done because after cooking it a few times, besides that the time is up, it starts to pull away from the pan, and so usually when it starts doing that, I don't have any problems getting it to go ahead and release from the pan. So I'll cut up a few more onions, and then I will get it out on the counter. So I know that all of our tastes are just a little bit different, so I will just kind of dress one up, maybe even for with all the ingredients that I have here, and then we can kind of pick and choose what we want, even if we just want to try the crust. So I think we'll have a red one.
But if you wanted to, you could put that stuff raw on the pizza, then put it back in the oven for a few minutes if
Oh, yeah.
people really wanted it cooked.
There are, and see that, true. And there's definitely benefits to both cooked and raw foods. The reason why I'm so adamant, like, let's have raw food on the pizza is because after a lifetime of cooked food, I think my body is very deficient in raw. So, it does not matter to me. I've already had lunch myself, and so any way we can try to get this to taste better after the way I've put it together, I'm fine with that.
So Justina, when you say that after a lifetime of being deficient in nutrients, is that what you're saying?
Well, I have
That
said,
that if you eat the raw, you get more nutrition, is that what you're saying?
I have, it's a temperance and things in balance. So I have primarily eaten cooked foods in my life, and yes, I have been deficient, and so to bring in a different variety of foods, to bring in the raw foods, is bringing in the nutrients that I'm deficient in. And so I do have cooked foods, but I try to balance those so that my health stays optimal. not optimal for my body.
They say there's a lot more vitamins and minerals in raw than cooked. It does take a certain amount out, you know, they're still there.
Sugar and fruit and vegetables changes.
Well, it's,
Sure.
oops.
Also, when
I
you
think
cook
what you're
it,
saying is that you lose nutrients as you cook them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
They,
understanding.
yeah, they change their,
But as your taste buds get used to it, then you may, 5 years from now, want more raw than you would cooked, you know?
that is one amazing thing about the way that we were created. God intended for us to always have a plan, and changing taste buds, I believe, is part of that. Because this is a pile of stuff I never would have touched before, and I love it. I'm trying to get you guys to eat it. So. Okay, so I'm gonna bring the pizzas out to cool and get the sauce warming up. It looks like these spilled just a little bit. These are still a no-no for me, but we kind of have an exception, and it even gets broken, is that we will have them on Sabbath because I continue to see that olives are healthy. And I am yet to find olives that don't have anything in them besides olives. These have, these came from Aldi's, I think. They have something in them that I can't pronounce. That's kind of my rule of thumb at home. It was one ingredient, and I'm putting the ingredient in, and I want to know what it is. So, with these, I'm not promoting these as healthy at all. So if you don't want these on your pizza, then great.
You might check out the natural olives that are with Lindsay olives, I think. They're called natural. Have you checked those?
We bought some at Pringer's. Did I say they were good? They didn't have.
Well, they still had stuff in them.
There's something that they're putting in them for a preservative, and so I just don't like all that stuff. But I think everybody here isn't worrying about that so much. But I don't like it, and I'm not trying to put them up here saying that this is what we should be eating, because if there's any kind of something in them that we can't understand how to grow it, that's probably not so good, or what it does to us. So I'm just going to throw the sauce on the stove. Any preference? 50-50?
Go with the herbs.
Go with the herbs, okay. You guys are worried this ain't gonna taste good.
No, I'm not worried. I just like herbs. Get those phytonutrients.
For sure.
Nutrients, I mean. Phytonutrients.
And I'm gonna pull the pizza out of the oven, let it cool. I don't know if at home I just get really busy in the kitchen.
The second drawer, yeah, the second drawer there's got a lot of heat in
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna hold it, but it's
Okay.
getting too hot. So at home, I don't know, I just probably get too busy and I leave it in the oven a little longer. This pizza is holding firm, like I said earlier. I should have blended it up a little more so it'd been nice and smooth. But I get mine just a little bit more done. When it's cooled, I don't think it'll really be any major issue. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let that first one cool. And this organic spinach should have come out of my garden, huh? But it didn't. I brought up the olives because I was going to let you know what I was going to do next. So since I'm not a real big fan of olives in a can, but I'm really enjoying olives on Sabbath, I'm going to just throw them in a strainer and rinse them good underneath the sink.
I think Justina, maybe olives is about one of my favorite foods.
I think there's something in them that we need to have. But it's one of those foods that I find that people either love them or hate them. Okay, so put the salt, and I was gonna take this dish to bring them back.
Matter of fact, I would rather have olives than sweets.
I can understand that one.
Justina, right in the drawer in front, there's some pads there.
Yes, it is true that again, kind of the things that we have in balance, and I have traded off 3 meal a day sweets for a few Sabbath olives. So even if just part of my journey, I'm very grateful to be down to this last dish.
There's some pot holders in the door, in the
She
door
found
below that.
I brought some. You guys are lots of fun. Okay, so I know that we want to kind of tailor our pizza just a little bit to our liking, but I'll go ahead and just put some stuff on here so we can kind of get an idea of it looking like a pizza and not just a pan with dough in it.
Have you ever tried parchment paper underneath that?
No.
Okay.
I actually was looking for our parchment paper, and I think that I must be out. And so we usually use it for in the freezer. So this is not my favorite part, but you just spread the sauce on. And try not to sling it all over yourself or the counter. And it's going on very well. Not burning me.
I thought that's the reason that cooks wore aprons.
Okay, so that's a funny story, and I'm glad you asked because I really wanted to share the story. I was talking about things that we have to have. When I started cooking and stopped eating out, I wanted an apron. And I have a great family, and they afforded me an apron. But they brought it home and had cupcakes all over it. And so I was like, I really am gonna miss my apron if I don't wear my cupcake apron. And it's just as I was walking out the door, my family said, "Mom, where's your apron?" And I said, "It's dirty." Okay, so just putting a little sauce on there, and then just lay some spinach. I actually cut it ahead of time. It looks like we have less than 24 people here, so I won't worry about exactly how we do that.
Well, half of it's mine.
I think that you might be able to get some.
You can't argue anything about it.
I thank you guys for letting me practice with you today.
Thank you for coming. Joining us.
And I hope that we can,
I mean, at least we wasn't late, you know, that's the main thing.
You brave soul, you.
that was good.
It's always fun to watch somebody else cook.
Right. That's onion. correct?
Yes, it is. And again, I cook the onion and I put it on first, but it just gives the bright onion gives it some visual interest. The thing I've found to be true is that when something looks appetizing, then it's we find it more tasty and easier to digest. And so when I'm at home and just a little bit here, I enjoy using my image of God to work in the kitchen making food.
Can you explain that more?
Well, God is the ultimate creator, and being created in His image, all the creative ability that I have, I believe to be given from the ultimate creator. And
You know-
so I consider that to be designing beautiful things, and I personally think that my food is beautiful. So
Well,
Thanks
nobody
to
can
my
deny
God.
that. Look at all that color. That is beautiful.
No, olives are actually good for your respiratory system.
They're good for so many
that's
things.
probably why I want them.
Well, the main reason I like them is because they are good for my taste buds.
That's another reason why I want them. Okay, so this pizza's kind of thin as far as we could have definitely added
Just
some more
hold it there a little bit
toppings to
longer,
it.
Justina.
But yes, showing the color and the simplicity of the pizza. So the only thing really left to do is, as soon as it's cooled down enough, we need to try this. And then we can, get some feedback. I don't mind answering any questions as far as dislikes or likes, and I'd be happy to share with you how that might be tailored, if I can help.
So we want Carla to take the first
No,
piece.
she don't.
If Carla likes it, then we'll all
No,
like
she
it.
don't.
Cut up some more olives.
No, no more olives.
How about I take the first piece and I tell you what's wrong with it?